So when we have a collection, most often we want to do something with that collection. So we've seen ways in which we can go and retrieve items or elements from our collection, ways in which we can add elements and so forth. But let's say we're given a collection such as this, right? It's a list of strings that contains names, James, Paul, Raphael, Gina, and so forth. And we want to go through and just retrieve, for instance, a name, and we want to be able to filter this list to see if, for instance, Paul is in the list, or Raphael, or Gina, or James, or whatever else we want to filter. Well, there is a method we can call. That's the beauty of collections, right? So if I say my list and say dot, we can go ahead and call the filter there. Okay, there's different kinds of filters, but we want the first one. And you can see here, it says filter, and we have these curly braces there. And whenever you see something like this, you know that this is indeed a lambda functions. Ah, very nice. So they're everywhere. Okay, hit enter. And if you hit enter again, you're going to see the it argument being passed there. So this is what we call a predicate. In fact, you can see that it says it's a predicate and is a string. So we're passing it in a string as an argument there, which is it. And then it returns a boolean. Okay, so the body is going to be boolean. So in this case here, what do we want to do? We want to say, for instance, if it, right, the string that has been passing, so in this case it could be any of these, is equal to, for instance, Paul. If that's true, what's going to happen is a new list will be created that will contain Paul, if indeed Paul is part of this list. So it will be nice for us to put that in a new variable. I'm going to say found like this. So now if I say print found, see, and run, we should see we have a list or an array of Paul. So when we filter, what happens is a new list is created containing that element if found. If not, then it's not going to show. In fact, if I change this to Paolo or Paul0, as you see there, because it's not part of this list, we should see an empty list that's created that contains nothing. We can do all sorts of things. Let's say we want to return any element that has more than 5 letters, for instance. Well, we can do that. We can come here, and because it, in this case, it's a string, I can actually also invoke a method on that. So I can say length. So the length is going to return an int. And you can see here there's this documentation. Okay, it says length is a val of type int that returns the length of this character sequence. All right, so there we go. So if I say it length is greater, let's say than 4, and let's go ahead and run. All right, so it only returns a new list that has names that have more than 4 letters. James and Raphael in this case. Gina has 4, so that's not more than 4. Paul also has 4, so that's not more than 4. You can do all sorts of things. You can also say, I want to filter this list by, say, ends with, right? So I'm going to go try to find all of the names that ends with, let's say, this character here, L. Let's run, and you can see Paul and Raphael, because they end with L, L. It says a suffix, right, the end, but we can also pass prefix, and we can also do starts with. Look at that, that's going to be a prefix, right? With L, let's see if that's going to work. Of course, it will work, but we should see nothing because there are no names that start with L. Then there we have it. You can see that we have an empty list there. Now, one thing you will notice also, we can further filter things here. So if I said it starts with and pass the prefix, right? We want something that starts with R. If we run this again, you'll see that we're going to get Raphael. Okay, there's Raphael. However, if I change this R to lowercase r like this, what do you think is going to happen? I'm going to run, and we get an empty list. The reason being is because this filter is case sensitive. Okay, so it has to be exactly the same as what we may have in our list of. So we can also, if you hover over this starts with, you can hover over it and it tells you exactly what is expected or what parameters are passed or what arguments are expected. Okay, so here we can pass the prefix, we pass the string, which is this R in this case, and then we can also pass the ignore case to either be Boolean, to either be true or false. So if you say ignore case and say true as such, then what's going to happen is, let's run, you will see that it will catch Raphael because we said just ignore the case. Now, the beauty here also is that this condition, or what we call the predicate, we can make it even more complicated, meaning we can cipher through even more. I can say we want to return any item in our list here that starts with R, ignoring the case. And also I'm going to say two ends like this. Okay. I can say it dot ends with, let's say, L like this. Now, I've changed a few things here. You notice, first of all, here we have this prefix and we have double quotes. In this case here, we have single quote. What is this? Well, the difference here is that you see here we have a character. Characters in Kotlin must be inside of single quotes, whereas strings have to be inside of double quotes. That's a very important distinction. Okay, so let's run this and see what's going to happen. Aha, it says empty here. Again, it's because it's looking at this L and it's saying, well, there's nothing that ends with L, uppercase. If we go back and say ignore, put a new line, say true, and run again, we should be able to see Raphael. And there you have it. So you can make this as complex as you want to cipher through exactly what you're looking for in our list.